What's up, everybody? Heroes 13 here, back with yet another video. So, in this video, I thought of something a little interesting, right? I put together the Ultimate Avengers team. Well, the Ultimate so far, right? And I believe this team of Avengers is so powerful, and you can see them here on the screen. White Vision, or any Vision, really, but I just pick White Vision because you don't really need Vision with the Mind Stone. MCU Scarlet Witch. Well, MCU White Vision. MCU Scarlet Witch, MCU Sentry, MCU Thor, MCU Captain Marvel, MCU Infinity War, Iron Man. I personally feel like I shouldn't have to, clarify MCU only, but I'm just now getting back into content creations, and I might, it might be people who don't remember. I only do MCU or movie and animated versions of these characters, though I haven't really done animated versions in a while. But anyway, enough rambling, right? So a couple things, right? I was just walking around the other day, I'm still on my hurt, my fractured foot. I wasn't walking, I was just, hanging about. And I just thought about something, right? What would be the ultimate team of Avengers? I ultimately came to this team, and I figured that this team right here is actually strong enough to not only beat the Justice League from the DCEU, but I think they could actually defeat the entire DCEU on their own. Now, it has to be people who are actually considered in the DC extended universe, right? So no Green Lantern, no Parallax, even though that still wouldn't really make a difference if you ask me. So it hasn't been in the DCEU, and the Avengers I used have to have, at least in some way, shape, or form, been an official member or officially a part or partnered with the Avengers in the MCU. So none of the Guardians count because they only none of the Sorcerers really count because they only helped in the final battle. Just because they helped in the final battle, that's not enough to officially give them like the Avengers pass, I'll say, right? And I thought about this because people, there's this whole thing about MCU versus DCU. A lot of people say that the DCU is stronger than the MCU. Avengers, Avengers versus Justice League, that's like the oldest debate in like heroes and like comics so far. But anyway, okay, so like I said, that's my team. You probably think I'm on crack or something like that. There's no way those six, and I chose 6 Avengers because 6 was the original number of Avengers in the first movie. The Avengers 2012, it was Cap, Iron Man, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Hulk, Thor. 6 people. All right. So you're probably saying there's no way, like, you think that group, a lot of you probably don't even think that group can beat the Justice League. I highly disagree. Captain Marvel could beat 5 of those people by herself. Captain Marvel could beat Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, Cyborg, and Batman on her own. We saw that Captain Marvel was able to fly, and she was able to reignite a dying star, the core of a dying star with her power. That's planetary level, right? Like, I believe the smallest star is bigger than the largest planet. Well, no, of course, because, there's dwarf stars, supergiant stars. A dwarf star is larger than even a gas giant like Saturn or Jupiter. So, and Captain Marvel reignited a sun-sized star, so a star the size of our sun, which is our star is a mid-sized star, by the way. So it's not a dwarf giant, but it's not necessarily a super giant. But her being able to restart something with a core that massive, Captain Marvel could destroy a planet with her blast. Captain Marvel alone could destroy if you put her against all the people of the DCEU, all she'd have to do is destroy the planet. Only person who probably who could survive in space is probably like the Shazam family, maybe Black Adam, maybe Superman. Everyone else dies. That's it. And you might point to Flash like, oh, Flash has time travel powers, but as we saw from the Flash movie, that doesn't necessarily guarantee you the win. That just draws out the butt whooping if you can't actually overcome the power ahead of you. So if Flash is so desperate that he has to go back in time, he can't. I mean, that means the power that he's up against is too much to begin with, right? I mean, to be fair, I don't know who wins between her and Superman. Like, Captain Marvel's stronger than Superman, and she has greater damage output, but I don't know if she would power Superman up with her blast. I've said this time and time again. You know, Superman is so inconsistent because, like, he absorbs, like, solar radiation, and Captain Marvel emits photonic energy, and the sun also. So, it's just, Superman's just too inconsistent, but even so, she can definitely absorb his energy attacks. Captain Marvel can absorb energy to get stronger. So, like the Shazam family, Black Adam, Superman, all of them, when they shoot their electricity or their heat vision, they're just going to power her up. So Captain Marvel is actually kind of MVP in this one. Though she probably wouldn't due to Wanda being there. But like, Captain Marvel could one-shot, not just like over 9/10 of the Justice League, but basically most of the the DCU, right? But then you got Sentry, the new kid on the block. Yes, okay, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but Sentry he at the very least, he's just as powerful as Captain Marvel, Thor, and Vision combined, right? That was stated in promotional material over in China. It was and he was also stated by Valentina to be more powerful than all the Avengers, like an entire team of Avengers rolled into one. Sentry has been stated to be like the most powerful Avenger so far, and he has so many statements by that. So that's definitely Marvel hammering home how strong he is. Yeah, Sentry doesn't show. He doesn't got his best feat. His two best feats would be him fall while he had no control of his powers and he wasn't, on full-on Sentry mode, and like he wasn't fully powered. He survived falling from an incredible high altitude, and he actually like plummeted down. Like he actually had like a little, like a sonic or like a sound or sonic trail as he was falling. He landed and hit the ground so hard that it created a shockwave that knocked over dozens upon dozens of heavily armored military vehicles. And he survived. He was knocked out, but he still survived. So again, that's not. I mean, Captain Marvel has a better feat falling. Like she fell from space and was okay, but I mean, Sentry's just getting used to his powers. But where Sentry really shines, it's his psychic abilities, his telekinesis, and his telepathic powers. Sentry was putting everybody in the state of New York in a nightmarish shadow, like type of shadow realm. So if Captain Marvel doesn't just blow most of the DCU army to smithereens, Sentry's just gonna can just trap them in their worst nightmares. And a lot of them actually wouldn't have an answer to Sentry's telepathic powers, or Wanda's for that matter. And we'll get to her in a bit. You also throw in the fact like he's got telekinesis, and Sentry doesn't really know how to use his powers. Like Sentry was beginning to melt vibranium, something that took Thor's lightning, Iron Man's repulsors, and Vision's Mind Stone to do, and it just barely did it. It just barely melted vibranium, right? So I mean, we don't know how hot Iron Man's repulsors are, or Vision's Mind Stone blast, but we know Thor shoots regular lightning. So his lightning has to be elite. Well, not regular lightning. Like, he can change the intensity and stuff, but lightning has a base, temperature of about 12,000 degrees, right? So if we absolutely lowball this, say Thor was shooting lightning at 12,000 degrees, we'll give the Mind Stone, because the Mind Stone was definitely above Thor's lightning, we'll give it about 24,000 degrees. Because I doubt Iron Man's repulsors are that hot. I mean, even though he can kind of like absorb it. Anyway, say Iron Man's repulsors was about 5,000 degrees, right? That's over like 30-something thousand degrees just to melt vibranium. Superman could do that with his heat vision, I'll admit, because we saw him melt something that was at millions of Kelvin. Here is the problem. I kind of got off track right here, but With Sentry being able to melt vibranium relatively easily, even though he wasn't really, like, he was just coming into his power, because we saw him basically he did like a brief training with Valentina. Sentry could probably, like, he likely has energy powers, because he has that in the comics. His energy manipulation powers and his destructive output is probably going to be something serious. But look, I'll be honest, we can't count that, because we don't really, he doesn't really show it. But we saw him heat up. He melted John Walker's gun, and he was melting vibranium, so he has some pretty good heat resistance. So he could probably melt Cyborg. So Cyborg just gets eviscerated. Sentry also seems to have like a shield around him, so preventing things from attacking him, as we saw when Red Guardian was trying to stab him several times. We saw Sentry take a hit from vibranium from a super soldier, like Bucky's vibranium arm. Sentry no-sold that. So, and we also saw him bend John Walker's shield. This is one of his two greatest feats, along with falling from like that incredible height. With Sentry being able to bend John Walker's shield, I believe it's made of something like vibranium, or some like super metal that's comparable to vibranium. So Sentry could definitely bend something, and like he can like snap vibranium. So this puts him on like up there. This reinforces him being as strong as Captain Marvel and Thor and all them. This puts him up there with Thanos in terms of like actual strength. Cause Thanos like crushed Vision's head, but he used his sword to break Captain's shield. Sentry bent that shield with just his bare hands, no actual weapons or anything. But so yeah, Sentry destroys Superman. So even if and plus Sentry also has super speed. We saw him casually get out of the way of bullets. And remember, he was fighting the Thunderbolts and he was holding back. Sentry, the same thing y'all love to say about Superman. He was holding back. Well, Sentry was holding back against the Thunderbolts. So yeah, but then we go to Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch, she takes absolutely no. It's absolutely no. I don't gotta explain. It's the Scarlet. We know MC is Scarlet Witch. Like one of her greatest feats is one that I don't see many people talking about. It's when in Multiverse of the Madness, when Doctor Strange goes to recruit her, and she casts a hex to fool a Sorcerer Supreme level being in terms of magic, right? And the hex was so massive. Like, Doctor Strange generally thought he was in, like, he thought she was in a rural countryside. But when she undid the hex, he was in a vast, just like ruined forest. So she was able to cast a powerful illusion, and Doctor Strange even smelled it, and he said it smells real. So her hex was so powerful and so vast, like at least the size of a great rainforest. So if Captain Marvel doesn't blow them to smithereens, if Sentry doesn't put all of them in the Nightmare Realm, Scarlet Witch is just gonna hex them all and turn them into cheese or something like that. Those three alone easily destroy the DCEU. But then you got people like Vision, and you got people like but then there's Vision, Thor, and Iron Man, who are just there. Vision is really powerful. He's comparable to Superman. I kind of go back and forth, but we'll just say he's comparable to Superman in terms of his strength and ability. He's got phasing. He's got energy blast, so he's going to take out a few stragglers. You got Thor with his lightning. Thor's actually fairly strong. Like we saw in Thor. Not Ragnarok. There's one. What was the name of that movie? Oh, sorry. Thor: Love and Thunder. We saw that he was able to use his when he summoned Stormbreaker to him. His lightning powers were so potential. He was able to destroy or completely ruin the surface of an entire moon. We also saw that. So this puts Thor at least at continent level. We saw Thor also took blasts from the neutron star. He was able to move the trillion-ton rings of Nilavir. I'm sorry, I can't say that word. I butcher it every time. So Thor and Vision are gonna laser down a couple of like straggler stuff. Like people say, like the lower members of the Shazam family, because yes, Vision could beat any one of them. You got the Justice Society. Yeah. And then there's Infinity War Iron Man. Infinity War Iron Man is actually a lot. He's kind of like underrated. Like he's the weakest member here, but he's still fairly powerful. I got Infinity War Iron Man above DCU Wonder Woman. Like sure she might. I mean that suit was. I mean well, actually when he was Endgame Iron Man because Endgame Iron Man is stronger than Infinity War Iron Man, but. Well, either one, it doesn't really matter because Infinity War Iron Man was taking hits from Thanos. Now, yes, Thanos was holding back. Thanos wasn't serious, but Thanos did throw in a couple of serious blows there, and the armor held up, and the armor also could like regenerate. So let's say Wonder Woman, because I know Wonder Woman doesn't have the strength of Thanos. So let's say Wonder Woman hits a couple of his armor pieces. I doubt she'd break it, but even if he got like a cut or a dent, it would just like heal itself. And his versatility gives him the edge over Wonder Woman. He's got his repulsors, he's got his magnet attacks, he's got that big hammer boot, he's got rockets, he's got the sword, the shield. He's got it all. That shit even withstood a blast from the Power Stone for a bit. So though I must reiterate, it was only for a bit. So yeah, I believe I've so Infinity War Iron Man, Vision, and Thor, they really handle the stragglers. And I believe this group of 6 Avengers, the moment they see just how like the vast army of heroes and villains that's up against them, yeah, they're gonna unleash like massive blasts. Like they're not gonna hold back at all. And Sentry is probably just as fast as Captain Marvel, or at least he's as fast as like lightning, like supersonic. So they're gonna blitz a couple of people. Flash is gonna be tricky with his speed, but eventually he will get caught because we saw like in the Snyder Cut, Flash was tagged by is either in Justice League or in Snyder Cut, or the Whedon Cut or the Snyder Cut. Flash was tagged by a parademon that was shooting at him, but yeah. So the biggest threat here, no surprise, is Superman. But Captain Marvel and Sentry eventually handle him, and then they go help out the team. So the bulk of the DCU is either going to be annihilated by Captain Marvel or put into a mental trance by Sentry and Wanda, whichever one. Yeah, there are beings like Darkseid, but he's practically featless. He's obviously above Superman, but they got him. So yeah, like there's nothing really they got. Like Sentry could probably hold him off while Captain Marvel beats down Superman, or Scarlet Witch puts the entire MCU into a DCU into a hex, while Iron Man and them help Sentry hold off Darkseid. Darkseid's gonna be the biggest challenge, but eventually even he goes down. Superman and Darkseid are their biggest assets, but they can't defeat this group of Ultimate Avengers. This is Heroes 3TN. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time.